For the world's two largest economies, the U.S. and China. It comes at a time when the U.S. faces record debt, and much of that debt is owned by China. Joining me to talk more about the relationship between the two countries, how it has evolved, is Jim Rogers, Quantum Fund co-founder and author of this book right here, A Gift to My Children, A Father's Lessons for Life and Investing. That's just one of his books. I want to thank you so much for joining us. I want to ask you, we've seen a lot of talking points coming out of the summit for today, a lot of rah-rah cooperation, sound bites. What's the real story, Jim? What's the real dynamic going on between these two countries?
Well, the main problem is the United States is the largest debtor nation in the history of the world, Ms. Lister. Not just the largest debtor nation in the world, but in the history of the world. And our debts are getting deeper and deeper. The rest of the world is getting upset about it. I hope every American citizen is getting upset about it, because it's going to be the ruination of America, and anybody who's a creditor to America has to worry about it.
I don't know if Americans are all very upset about it. We see in the mainstream media press focusing on the United States pushing China to increase the value of its yuan more rapidly. I want to know if you think that that is a pressing issue, and if you think the United States has leverage to ask them to do this when the Federal Reserve has a policy of quantitative easing that devalues the dollar, and when the United States has such high debts that it expects China to finance.
Well, you make a very good point. Yes, the United States is trying to drive down the value of its currency. It's trying to debase its currency. No country in history that's had a policy of debasing its own currency has done very well in the long term or even the medium term. It sometimes works in the short term that you can revive your economy by devaluing your own money, but that's not a good policy. Now, to the Chinese, in my view, the Chinese should let their currency be freely tradable and convertible. They are a great economy now, but the idea that the U.S. is going to prosper by driving down the value of our own money is lunacy.
I want to know who you think has the upper hand in these talks, because both countries are reliant on each other to an extent. China needs the United States to buy its, cheap toys and fake Christmas trees, and it's the largest foreign market for them. At the same time, the United States needs China to finance its deficit, to finance its military budget, to finance its operations. So who has the upper hand in talks like this?
Well, of the two, I'd rather be the creditor than the debtor. Throughout history, people have always said, look over there with all that money. I want to go over there where the assets are. You've never heard people say, look at all those debtors. I want to go over there and join those debtors. I'd rather be the creditor than the debtor in any case, and certainly in this one.
At the same token, what is the dynamic? Because the United States has the exorbitant privilege, as some have called it, of printing the reserve currency.
No, I know, and that's got to come to an end. Unfortunately, and this is not Chinese policy, Chinese-American, but, America's going to have to face the problem that we are the largest debtor nation in the world, and it's getting higher and higher, and the rest of the world is starting to say, wait a minute, guys, we're not going to continue to finance this. We're not going to continue to play ball. Other countries are now looking for replacements for the U.S. dollar. There's a lot of movement, not just in China, but all over the world, because everybody knows that the U.S. dollar is now a terribly flawed currency. I don't like saying this. I'm an American citizen and American taxpayer, but we've got to face facts.
When do you see there being a tipping point, and what do you see as the replacement? Because Russia and other developing nations, Brazil, have all signed on to concerns and plans of people like Joseph Stiglitz, who lobby for a different global reserve currency.